Hi, this is Steve Gillmor, and this is the Gillmor Gang. I'm confused about this situation with why is Twitter at the president's dinner and not? Let me think. Asked and answered. Okay. I guess you have to be a Republican to not be invited. Speaking of Republicans, to my immediate right, no pun intended, is Kevin Marks. Welcome, Kevin.
Hi there. I'm not sure I'm a Republican. That means something entirely different in England. It means I'd be an Irish terrorist.
Oh, well, I didn't mean that. To his right, I don't know what that means either, is Robert Scoble. Welcome, Robert.
Hey. Nice to be on again.
Yeah, nice to be had. Joining us to round out the arguments, I think we're going to have some fun today. Every time I say that, it turns out to be a terrible show. So I think we're going to have a really lousy, boring time. All right. And joining us to help with that is Danny Sullivan. Welcome, Danny. There he goes.
Hey.
When you first moved to LA, did you go to acting school?
Yeah, I had natural talent, so it wasn't a problem. I grew up in LA, so we're taught at an early age how to act. That's just how it goes.
Right. Always carry your script with you when you ride the bus.
Yes.
Okay. And to my left is, of course, John Taschek.
Hello, Steve. I'm just sorry I didn't wear my electric shirt today.
I'm not sure. Oh, my electric shirt.
Oh, your electric shirt, but I was trying to find my electric shirt.
I found the least potentially damaging shirt that I could find. And if anybody sees that, I guess this only is on the rendering version of the show. So people who are seeing this live are not being treated to a electric acid Kool-Aid test. Of the type that last
I'm still laughing about that. It was so funny. The show is a highlight for me already.
All right, so we've got a lot to talk about today, and let's. I think I'm going to let Scoble pick what we talk about first because he's already said it on Twitter several times.
Uber Media getting banned by Twitter.
Okay, so give us the backstory on that because.
I just know what I read on TechMeme.
No,
which means
I'm not suggesting that you know anything about this. I'm just suggesting
no.
the backstory as
suggesting that Scoble knows anything.
And your mic is off axis, so when you turn away to look at your voluminous screens, your voice goes to hell. So.
Here you can watch Twitter for me. There you go.
Okay. Thanks.
Uber Media today banned several of the Twitter banned several of the Uber Media clients, including Twidroid, for breaking trademark and monetization and other rules that Twitter had.
Okay,
and so sounds like there's a new.
Who's Uber Media?
Uber Media is the group of companies invested in by Bill Gross.
GoTo.com.
Right.
For Twitter.
Yeah.
All right, so the significance of this is, other than the fact that Twitter is flexing its muscles, is who am Uber Media that makes this an interesting story?
Well, Uber Media owns TweetDeck.
No, not yet.
I thought they just invested in them.
That's the most interesting thing, and in fact, maybe Twitter might not have done this if they had. They're in acquisition talks, but neither side's actually confirmed that deal has gone through.
Okay.
So Uber Media owns things like TwitDroid and Uber Tweet or Uber Twitter, I can't think it was, but a variety of different clients, but they don't own yet TweetDeck, which is one of the most popular Twitter clients out there. And if they did own it, I wonder if Twitter would have actually dropped the bomb so apparently out of the blue in the way that it did today.
Yeah, it sounds like, by the way, Uber Media is responding already on Twitter and saying there's a new client coming this afternoon that'll fix the problems they're having with Twitter. So,
yeah, well, that doesn't matter unless Twitter turns them back on.
No, actually, it's a bigger story that will get Apple involved in, because Apple and Twitter have built the metaphorical equivalents of shopping malls, and they want to control the pricing of that shopping mall. If you buy a store at a shopping mall, you have to pay the shopping mall.
How
a
do we get
certain
into
percentage
Apple? You just
Shopping
Because
switched
Apple-
memes in midstream.
There's a tie here. Apple earlier this week was in trouble with a lot of people because they're charging.
Like who?
With
Anybody
publishing
on this show?
No.
They're not in trouble with me. I think they should be. I think it should be 50%. I'm not kidding.
Well, you should talk to
Anyways,
Amazon then. I think
Apple's
they
charging these
take 50%.
publishers 30% of their subscription fee, and
Yeah,
Apple's
but
also
you
making
switched
them.
stories. You
No,
haven't
because
elegantly
it's the
tied two
same.
together.
It's the same. It's the same idea, which is these big companies now are flexing their muscles over developers and saying, "You will pay up and you will play our game, or else we're gonna kick you off." I was trying to tie it. I don't know if I did.
Okay.
It's my Twitter,
All right,
and
so
you'll
we
pay
still-
if you want to pay.
Singing school also, huh, Danny?
You would pay 30% too if Steve Jobs to you. Da, 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 da. Anyway, sorry.
All right. So I don't think we've quite yet made the case, which is there, that Uber Media is somebody to be feared. So let's make that case so that we can then move into our monopolistic monoculture rant.
Okay, well, I think the so we'll have an aside to the show, a side show first, and then we'll go into the real show. I think
Only if somebody actually explains why Uber Media is a threat.
Oh well, I think Loic from Seismic had put out a post last week.
Your checks in the mail.
Yeah, I might have
Finally,
even,
somebody points out what the obvious. Only what Loic thinks is the obvious. Why Loic is complaining about this is interesting as well. So go ahead.
Nobody's buying him yet, but okay.
Okay. Well, I mean, what Loic
All right,
says.
let me ask the question: what percent of Twitter data is now flowing through Uber Media sites?
Well, if they had TweetDeck, it would be 20%. I thought was the number.
I think it's larger.
Is it?
Yeah, but let's say it's 20%. What other clouds have 20% of the data flowing through their servers?
Facebook.
Of the Twitter data?
Yeah, I don't know about
Microsoft and Google?
No, in terms of, well, yeah, they're paying for it. Microsoft
Right.
and Google are paying for it, but they're not funneling back onto the network.
Right.
Okay, so the answer is nobody.
Right.
Nobody has a larger cloud than Uber Media has or will have.
Is that right?
Yeah.
They have a
Will have, I suppose,
significant
become real,
amount.
yeah.
They've been very quietly, and now less quietly, since this has now reached the attention of Biz and Jack and Ev, buying up this real estate.
Let's unpack that a little bit, though. I mean, because Twitter probably has 50 or 60% at least of the data on their own clients going through the Twitter cloud.
Sure.
And they're protecting that. It's the rest of the market that's completely fragmented, and Uber Media is seeing an opportunity for.
Well, there is one other. I've actually cheated, but there's one other major vendor.
Who? Salesforce?
Tell us.
Has a relationship with TweetDeck.
Has a relationship with TweetDeck.
Well, I'm not sure how direct it
It's
is.
just I need to be Watson to answer this question. What is
Yeah.
The guy on House is who you have to be. The long-suffering.
Well, so we've got to get it wrong 4 times and always kill it before we get the right answer.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the right answer is Bitly.
Oh, of course. Yeah, okay.
They get more data.
They have enormous amounts of data.
50%
Yeah, but
of the traffic.
Twitter,
Is that
Twitter has plans for Bitly if they're a problem.
No, they've already done that, Danny.
No, not quite.
Sure they
Quite.
have.
Yeah, T.co.
Danny's
They do-
frozen.
they do
but
have
as long
that,
as we
but-
can hear him, we'll stick with it. We may have to call you back, Danny, if you stay frozen.
Oh, am I all going futzy?
No, it looks fine. It's just a still, which is actually not bad.
Oh,
you're
I don't
yawning,
know.
but
You look serious, but
Better than the
composed.
singing. Okay.
I'm on the Wi-Fi system, and if I go
Brilliant.
to the wired, that might wired might work better than convert my students.
Yeah. I agree. Whatever you said. All
I
right,
must have been
let's
on that
calm
channel last week. That's
Go back
that must be
to Wired.
I'll go back to Wired if I can do it, and we'll see if it works. Keep looking at this side of me. It's my best side. I lost track of... Even though Twitter has their own shortened URL, Bitly still goes through that. If you shorten something and they put their own wrapper around it, they're still wrapping Bitly. But technically, they could unwrap it and really wipe Bitly out if they wanted to.
I wasn't listening.
They haven't
'cause
quite
I was
dropped that bomb
concentrating on
yet.
Your picture. Let me call you back. Hang on.
Okay.
Does somebody want to repeat what Danny just said? Because I wasn't listening.
He basically said that Twitter could wipe out Bitly if they wanted to, and
Yeah, I heard that part, but by what mechanism?
by just incorporating Bitly type a mechanism inside all the Twitter clients. But it seems like they've done that, but it still seems like people are using Bitly. So
Hola, dígame.
That's much better.
Yeah, until the computer crashes, but all right. You'll see.
Boy, this is fun. So, so you're saying that they could somehow push all of the data that they're pushing currently to clients? They could push it through a Bitly and solve the problem that way?
Me?
Is that what you said before?
Oh, yeah, I'm saying that if Twitter wanted to wipe out the shorteners, they could do it because they can basically take any URL that gets shortened and completely strip them and put it out as their own URL.
Right.
They don't do that right now. They
No.
do have their own shortener, but if I put something else out through Bitly, they're really doing what's called wrapping. They're putting their own shortener on top of Bitly, so I still get all my Bitly tracking. I still get a variety of things.
Yeah.
And in some cases, Bitly, even if I use branded, will still go through Twitter. They don't. They really could make every single URL that goes out through Twitter.
But they would also would have
TCO.
a, dare I say the word, Apple type problem if they did that, because there are a lot of publishers that use Bitly as and
Yeah.
white label their
Although
product.
I agree with Robert that I think that they've just given themselves a bit of an Apple problem, because I can't recall that they have ever taken this kind of action against major clients like that.
Yes,
and
but
now we
you're
have
leaping ahead to the idea that taking an extortionist rate is a problem.
Well,
which
I don't
agree with.
Well, no. The problem is, forget the rate. It's just that they own an ecosystem, just like Apple owns an ecosystem. And if Apple doesn't want something to happen in its ecosystem, it can stop it because it controls the OS.
But
Twitter.
all right, so you're forcing me to get into the
No.
other
Let me just
discussion.
finish. I'm not saying
We've
to
had
get into the evil part.
17
even
minutes,
though I agree with
and
some of
I'm
the evil
already
part.
being forced into it.
I'm saying that Robert's right in that Apple can flex its muscle because it has this kind of control.
But
right?
Robert's wrong in that
no,
if he
well,
was
let me
in
just
fact
let me-
saying anything, which would
Let me
be-
get back to the Twitter thing.
Hey, Robert.
Twitter has a Twitter ecosystem, and they've just flexed it right now by cutting off a bunch of things that you can.
But what
you can
about the
argue
fact that-
merits of the dispute?
what about
as
if-
was, I'm sure we will, but I'm just saying we've not seen Twitter flex that kind of muscle before. I'm not getting into the debate.
Oh, of course we
which
have.
we'll get into. I'm just saying I have
throughout
not
their
seen
history
flexed it
we've
to this
seen them.
degree.
Twitter has never done anything except flex their muscles by turning off track, just on and on for 100 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is nothing new, and it hasn't hurt them a lot since they now are at the president's dinner for no apparent reason. I mean,
Well, they're a hot Silicon Valley company, San Francisco company. I mean, that's why they were at the
well,
dinner.
I think that some of those other guys shouldn't have been at the table, and Twitter should have been. So,
Well, I mean, there's
Well,
some
who
connections
is
to
that?
Twitter
Is
as well.
that Oracle?
I don't think Eric
Uh,
Schmidt belongs there. He's not even the CEO
What?
anymore.
Well, did you notice
he still is for
he
months.
I know.
Did you?
He's the CEO.
Did you? Yeah. Did you?
And Joe
did you
Biden's
notice
the
that
vice president.
Eric Schmidt was seated the furthest from Obama that you could get?
Yeah, and
I
then
don't
they
know
took
that
a
he was
picture.
the furthest because
They released two pictures.
Okay, Carl Bartz was pretty close to the furthest too, but they were both sitting down at the one end of the table.
There were two pictures released, and the other picture was a close-up of Obama and Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
Or what's his name? Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
And they were
from the- from
chatting,
the-
and in the foreground, extreme right, looking out of frame, trying to find out why he wasn't having a conversation with the president, is Eric Schmidt.
Right. From the pictures, you couldn't come away from those two pictures without thinking, Obama likes Facebook, right?
And Apple.
Facebook and Apple, but then,
Well, I'm sure
but then
that
maybe even Facebook
I'm sure that
more.
the first lady
Because if
and
you
the
think
kids
about
do.
it, You got Facebook and Apple sitting next to them. They put out only 2 pictures. One of them shows those 2 guys sitting right next to each other, right? And then the only other picture they put out is Obama having a little chat with Mark, who's all dressed up in a suit for the first time. I don't know if you can see it actually has a hoodie that
I
pops
totally
out.
agree with you, since that's what I just said. I agree with you.
You were right.
I was right.
You were right.
Okay, so I'm also right about the fact that sometimes companies will do things which appear to be extortionist or, having monopolistic tendencies or whatever the current excuse for DOA involvement or whatever it is are things that actually improve the climate, are very valuable to users, and which should not be viewed with alarm, but rather with great pleasure, because they're pushing forward the best platform on the planet in ways that will keep it growing.
As a publisher, I viewed with great pleasure the idea that Apple thinks they should get 30% of a subscription.
You're just trying me out, you know.
I was pleasured by it.
Apple thinks it's a retail store, and when I sold magazines at Fast Company and at Visual Basic Programmers Journal, we paid our retail store chains 30% to distribute our magazines, and we paid a distributor on top of that another 30%.
I think we should shut down. We should not allow Mike Arrington to write more than 1 post a month on TechCrunch because they're so dominant. Oh, wait a minute, he only writes 1 post a month, but we cut MG's output in half. Because it's unfair practices. I mean, it's ludicrous. If the market doesn't support something, then it's a mistake. Otherwise,
and I think that's really what we're talking about. Is this going to force developers to change its posture toward Apple? Right? Is Kindle going to pull its app off and say, "We're not going to distribute here because it's too expensive"?
Yeah, that's going to happen.
I agree with you. I think Apple is in a very strong position. The other thing that Apple's doing, by the way, is they're preparing for a lower cost iPhone. And so they're pushing the revenue from the sale of the hardware to services, to things that you buy. And this is
How about if we take the other approach, which is that we cut down, we limit Google's ability to dominate the search mechanisms, which allows them to give away stuff for 90% instead of for 70%. How about we go after Google?
Google for what?
Well, I mean, the argument is that 30% is too much. In other words, 70% is too little.
I don't know that that's
and
the
90%.
I think the argument.
To Google,
I think the argument is that Apple is not giving you any alternative. That they are simply saying
no, they're not. They have a product, they're selling it. They're saying here's how.
Try to round that in any way, you don't get to play on our platform. And I think that some publishers don't like that, and they feel like they especially don't like it because they view Apple as having a very dominant space in the OS and iPhone.
That's my point. So Google comes in with a supposedly better offer, which is we'll take 90% since we own 90% of search, and we're making our money somewhere else. So we're going to just try and convince you of our credibility, even though they're under attack from Facebook coming in with much higher results.
Well, I don't understand why 10% is necessarily better than 30%, which is better than 2 to 3% that my credit card company would take. I don't feel like Apple has earned a 30% slice of whatever somebody sells.
Apple absorbs the credit card company piece.
Yeah,
what's that?
And they absorb the credit card company piece.
That comes out of their 30%.
I'm saying if I go to a store and I buy something from the store, and I want to use a convenient way of paying for that, or if I want to subscribe to a magazine and I want a convenient way to subscribe to that without actually handing over cash every month, my credit card works out very well in doing that. And my credit card is only costing 2 to 4% of the purchase price. So low that I don't even get charged it in most cases. The merchant sucks it up, right? Yeah. Apple is apparently thinking that what it does is worth 30%.
Yeah, they invent the most fantastic object on the planet.
Yeah.
They
Danny, did you know when you walk in a shopping mall?
And they invented the idea of subscriptions, which apparently deserves 30%.
Danny, did you know that when you buy something at a shopping mall, the shopping mall owner, it takes probably 10 to 20% of every dollar you spend inside that shopping mall?
Yeah, it's
maybe even more.
It's retail versus the wholesale price.
What's
no, there's no wholesaling. If you go into a mall and spend $1,
here's a couple differences.
They
a
charge
couple
rent, they
differences
didn't
with
charge.
Apple.
By the way,
And
Borders
you can apply
just
this
went
to
Chapter
Google if you want
11.
as well, but there is no limited shelf space. Okay, I don't. It's not like the iPad says, "Oh, I can only put 10 different products on the shelf. Therefore, if you want to be on my shelves, you've got to pay me something or whatever." There's an unlimited amount. If I go onto the iPad,
There's not an
and
unlimited amount.
I do a search to find a magazine that's distributed through the iPad, and I find it because I wanted to see if this item was there because I've heard of their brand. Apple did nothing other than, I guess, let me search for it and find it. But they should get 30%.
That's not true,
showcasing it?
Danny. That's not true.
Why?
If Apple
What
did
if
nothing,
it was worth 30% of a
Danny,
subscription price?
Danny, if Apple did nothing, there wouldn't be a problem here because nobody would use it.
Right.
Oh, well, Apple did do
What they
something,
do
and
is
in
they
fact,
make
I
the
paid
transaction
them-
really simple.
I paid them what, like $500 for
Here's
this?
what, Danny. What did your local shopping mall do
Yeah.
to deserve its 20% or 10% or whatever percentage?
Because I'm not saying Apple. I'm sorry. Apple has done some things
Yeah.
to produce an ecosystem that a lot of people have actually paid money to go to and subscribe to.
So let's
I
give
didn't pay
Borders
didn't pay
$1 billion
I did not pay
to prop them up.
$500. I did not pay $500 to walk into the shopping mall. Okay? Didn't pay $400 to
Right.
walk into the shopping mall.
I
but
paid
in the Apple
$500.
Store, you didn't pay
That's fine for
you didn't pay
consumers.
money to go to the Apple Store either. You only paid a percentage when you actually buy something. Same as if you buy some shoes at the local Nordstrom's that's inside Valley Fair.
Good point. Private price supports. And anyway, I don't pay. I willingly pay $500 to not go to the shopping mall, which is why I don't go to Borders, which is why they're Chapter 11. It's gone. Apple did that.
Yeah, I never go to the shopping mall, go to the
I
Apple
think
Store.
the internet
Let's go
did
back to
that.
horses. I mean, there's a lot more work in horses. It'll boost the economy.
Or how about high-speed rail?
So the trick is, can you build a
It's no bubble
different
time.
another shopping mall outside of Apple's iTunes store and have it be successful? I mean, Android is trying to do that. Amazon's Kindle's trying to do that, right?
Sure.
Amazon has spent a lot more time trying to work inside the Apple ecosystem than outside of it.
Yeah.
But that's where the whole antitrust stuff comes into play. If Apple decides, for example, that you can't have a Kindle app be on the Apple platform effectively because it wants to take 30% off the prices, is it leveraging one of its areas to prevent a competitor from coming in? I don't know if that violates antitrust.
What? You mean
or not.
they're playing competitively? Oh my God! Alert the media.
No,
oh wait, there
no,
is no
Steve,
media.
Danny, antitrust was to
between
protect
playing
using a
competitively-
monopoly in one area to build a monopoly in a new
Right,
area.
Google. They have a monopoly in search, and
No,
they're using it to
antitrust is
support.
just
They're
exploiting
using it to
convenience
cut the
with a
VIG
monopoly.
from 30 to 10%.
Well, no, I don't know.
Outrageous.
No, I think Steve, you're
That's the reason to
No,
argue
you-
whether or not Google's acting anti-competitively. To suggest that,
What?
they have a payment system, and your argument that Google's subsidizing their payment system to somehow save 20% off of what Apple charges
Totally.
suggests no, but
Android.
that-
Look what
that's
they're doing with
that's-
Android. They're not making money on Android.
Yes, that's a better argument. That's a better
okay.
argument.
I'll
That's a
go to
much
the better one if you think that's better,
no,
but I
much
thought the
better
one I
argument.
said was pretty
That's a much
good.
better argument than a silly thing of saying, well, Google's only charging 10% on its transactions versus Apple's 30% because
Before they go to the
because
before they
giving it
go,
away.
they
Steve's
have
argument of giving it away for free
probably
actually
does
does
not cost
resonate.
either of them 10% to take your money and transact it that way, right?
I don't see an antitrust for charging a fee that the market is going to pay.
particularly since Google is now Android's got 34% of the market.
Right.
Apple's got 16%. So let's bring on the antitrust. It's not going to happen.
I think the antitrust stuff is already coming on to Google right now.
They're sniffing around. There's no dog. There's nothing there to bite.
And there may be nothing there to bite Apple, but it doesn't mean people aren't going to look into it.
Agreed. That's what the headline
Ultimately, it
was.
doesn't matter, right? Because the consumer's not being hit by this, so the consumer doesn't give a shit. The consumer goes,
interesting
well, I don't
point.
know. I just got this great pool, and it's wonderful, and I get to buy all my stuff, and I got my Oprah magazine, and it's wonderful. The publishers, not the
It's still in Oprah
developers.
magazine.
The
You
publishers.
still haven't recovered from that Oprah thing, have you, Dan?
No, no. Oh no, I couldn't subscribe. I think the people I feel sorry the most for are the publishers who sat out there thinking, "Oh my God, Apple's going to."
I don't, Danny. I pay.
It's going to be
Danny,
wonderful. And then
Danny,
I can
Danny,
slap beside the head.
Danny,
And say,
I've worked for two magazines. Okay, we paid a lot of money for distribution. We wanted distribution. Why? Because there's money in advertising, and if we can get more distribution, we will pay it. Okay, Steve Jobs, if he can get us 1 million readers, we will pay him because we can turn around and sell that advertising to somebody.
So there's a difference between distribution and simply being available. And what I mean by that is, again, going back to the search thing. It may very well be worth it to pay Steve Jobs 30% if he's going to make me the featured publication like the Daily and come on or send people out to my event and suck up in the way that he wants to do with Murdoch. All right. That's a distribution deal. It's another
Danny, I totally disagree. As a magazine guy, I had to pay just to get on the newsstand. That did not guarantee that anybody was going to pay for it. Okay, that was just availability, and I had to agree to the rules to get on that magazine stand. Okay, now I could pay extra to get higher on the stand or whatever.
Because the magazine stand can only hold so much. The iPad has no limitation on the number.
Actually, the iPad does have a limitation.
That's
and the
not
limitation,
true. That's a bogus argument that the iPad does not have shelf space.
Why?
Well, first of all, on the web pages,
you
can only have 9 web pages at a time. You can only look at one of those 9 pages.
If I search for a title by name, how on earth is there limited shelf space?
What is this search you're talking about?
Have you never searched for something in the iTunes marketplace?
Now, me and Steve just go to the featured page and look for the newest apps.
Right.
I just go to the update page and say yes, all.
If you want to be on the featured area, that's worth a lot of money. I got no argument if Apple thinks that they should charge publishers a ton of money for that. But if I create a search engine land subscription product and I go out there and I tell people on search engine land that you should be subscribing to it, and then they go over and they do a search for it on iTunes, and then they subscribe because I've been telling them to go do that and I haven't had any shelf space, so to speak, of, Apple gets 30% of that?
No, they get 30% because you want an iPhone app or an iPad app. Yeah. If you don't want an iPhone or an iPad app, knock yourself out. There's this huge browser thing called Safari that works just fine.
I understand that as an argument too.
Oh,
right, but haven't they said that you can't actually buy subscriptions through Safari? Isn't that the you can't route them out to the web to sell the subscription?
You have to sell it for the same price if you want an iPhone or an iPad app.
Yeah, you got to give.
So they're basically saying you can't price discriminate at all, which is an attack on many people's way of doing business.
What are you talking about?
No, most magazine subscriptions are sold at a discount.
Yeah.
Right?
And how's that going for them?
Yeah, I'm not saying it's going well, but they have a business model that's built.
So let's uphold something which is crashing and burning and destroying jobs left and right.
A magazine, they're saying you can't sell it to someone else at a special price.
You can if you want to use their stuff. Then you can't. No,
they're saying you can't. If you
want an iPhone app, if you want an iPhone app or an iPad app,
favored nations clause that says whatever you sell it for on Apple, you have to sell it for.
No, you're bringing in the noise from the other camp. Let me reframe this. If you want an iPad app, you have to follow their rules, or they won't clear it through the iPad, the App Store.
Right. And they
reserve the story. That's it. That's the rule. The rule is that it's going to cost the same if you sell it on the web as if you sell it through the iPad. They're going to take 30% for iPad sales and knock yourself out for anything else you want to do. Right?
Except that you cannot sell whatever you want to do if you want to have an iPad thing at less than the iPad price.
Exactly.
Right.
What's the problem here?
Well, some people
the problem there is
some publishers don't like it.
I'd like my iPads to be free and delivered to me at my door without having to even be aware of it or have to read TechCrunch or anybody else to find out that there's a new one coming.
The problem with it, for example, is if you are Hulu and you previously sold a subscription at $8 a month to get Hulu on the iPad.
Oh, you mean the company owned by the cartel? We have a problem with their business model. Gee, what a tragedy.
The problem is, if you're Hulu and you previously sold a subscription, as you already did using
Who's
all
Hulu?
of
Hulu is owned by Fox.
If you've already sold your subscription using all of Apple's previous rules, doing all the things that Apple said were perfectly fine, and you already bought your subscription and sell it to all these different people as they've done, now what's happened is potentially Apple's going to say now they get 30% of that.
No, they're going to say
yeah,
no. That's not what they said. They said that if Hulu wants to agree to the terms in the App Store, then they can't charge more in one place and less in another. That's what they're saying.
The new terms that suddenly gave them 30% of a subscription fee that they were not getting before, right? They weren't getting 30% of what you bought through Hulu. I went to Hulu. I bought my subscription on Hulu that enabled me to then see Hulu through the iPad app.
Well, okay. So,
but now
two guys and a baby, or whatever the name of the shows that are not available or are available on Hulu. What is the cost of production, and what's the markup, and what's their margin for those things?
You want to
have to pay Charlie Sheen to stay alive.
So their cost of production is low. Therefore, they can afford to give Apple 30%, even though Apple's cost of production of taking the 30% is even lower.
They could raise the price. They could raise the price for everybody.
So they have to raise the price for everybody because Apple suddenly decides it deserves
because they want to continue to be play in Apple's garden.
Which is a garden, by the way, that they were playing with to Apple's rules until Apple changed all the rules on them. Thanks for the heads up, Steve.
That's what happens, shopping mall owners raise the rent, and you got to decide whether you're staying in the mall or not.
I mean, what do we do about when companies raise prices? What do we do about that? Fine them?
Shop elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all going to come down to the publishers and how much they want to suck it up. And probably most of them will say, "Fuck, suck it up. We'll take it. Whatever you want, Apple, do it. You've got a big enough audience. If you want 30%, you can have the 30%.
It's not just a big enough audience.
Some of them will.
It's an audience that monetizes at a much higher rate than any other audience because everybody's credit card is in iTunes.
I don't understand how, if I have worked on my own website to get people to take up an application so that they can view my own website from my website on iTunes, how on earth Apple did
Are you charging a subscription fee, Danny?
Oh, I do, but I'm not talking in general. We don't. We could in the future.
So you're not hit by this anyways.
No, but we could in the future. And for me, probably would not be a big deal because of what Steve said. My production costs, it's already there. Apple wants to take 30% of it. For me, it's probably
right because
extra stuff. And the 30% of the fee that you're going to get from a subscriber is not going to be the major part of your profits.
You get 60%
I don't know that I get
sales.
Those more sales, Steve. I get those more sales in one of two ways from Apple doing something actually for me. I get those sales if Apple decides that I deserve to be one of their buddies and they put me up and featured. Okay?
Well, they do spread the love around quite a bit, by the way.
Awesome.
This is
Danny, they do spread the love around quite a bit. A lot of companies I interview have been on that featured page. So they do spread it around. They don't just pick one company.
I mean, they are not unencumbered. Based on living in a complete vacuum, they respond to the market. This is their response to the market. This is not them.
Their response to the market is we're going to take 30%. No publisher.
The response to the market is we can't make them.
No publisher said, "Gosh, Apple, you know what? We need to have you take 30% of our subscription fees."
Publishers are not the market. They're the service provider.
So they responded to the market saying, we'd like to be able to subscribe to stuff in our iOS ecosystem. I get that. But to say that charging 30% was a response to the market it's dumb.
Well, when I see Rupert Murdoch making a deal for the new Android tablet that I'm going to get on Monday and saying, hey, this Apple thing is over, let me know. Wake me up.
Well, Rupert, I think, got smacked
No,
upside
it's
the head because
other
it doesn't
problems.
sound like they knew what they were going to do. Wasn't it interesting that the day after it happened, actually the day it happened, suddenly Rupert's Wall Street Journal is out running articles about how there might be antitrust things. And News Corp didn't have anything to say about it. Why would they have anything to say about it? They banked so much on this supposedly saving them,
Yeah.
and now Steve is dipping into 30% of the pocket.
Yeah, so let's say 30%, there's antitrust rumblings. Every article I've read says is basically there's no, that they're thinking about it, but that ultimately they don't see any way of doing anything. So they're not going to.
I think the consumers don't care, and it won't impact them. Most publishers will suck it up because they do get the distribution that's going to go with it. But I think it does cause some publishers to become even more wary of Apple. I think it will cause some publishers to think, you're greedy bastards. You didn't need 30% of our subscription. Yes, I think publishers will think that. And I think publishers...
All right, well, wake me up when they
of Apple.
When they support Android and they don't support iPhone or iPad, wake me up. Let me know.
Because
I haven't seen it yet.
I said that they will suck it up. But are you arguing, Robert, that
we were on a call a couple days ago
publishers are going to suddenly and developers suddenly have greater love for Apple or less?
Oh no! This does. Everybody's grumbling. Nobody likes to pay more fees than they were paying before. Nobody likes it when the shopping mall raises the rent on them.
Do you think that's going to cause some publishers who previously thought, I will put a lot of eggs in the Apple basket, to rethink that?
No, I don't.
I don't think so.
Publishers to rethink whether or not.
I don't think so. I don't think they're going to realize. I think it would be the same thing as if Stanford Mall raised their rent 30%.
I'm not saying get out. I'm saying, do you think it will cause them to rethink whether or not they should do as much?
Okay, here's where we loop back to Robert's point about Twitter. In spite of Twitter being perceived and promoted as a bad guy by everybody on the planet, starting with me and Dave Weiner.
Twitter's bad guy on the planet?
Twitter has always been maligned for doing exactly what you are complaining about.
Okay.
Okay. It has had
not always,
absolutely
but last 18 months.
It's had no negative impact whatsoever. Yeah. Probably it's been positive for them because it sends a message which is they're going to do something which rationally means that they may actually have a business model at some point in the distant future.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the other major theme in what was known as the media these days is about that this isn't a bubble. This is a Ponzi scheme or a multi-level marketing thing where basically we're just buying up shares in all of these non-businesses in hopes that they will be bought by other non-businesses or somehow we will just keep shifting the money around as this thing escalates to the point where it collapses. That's the theory. I mean, the reason that Twitter was at the table with the president last night is because of all of these companies, Twitter has shown the most dominant direction in terms of what I consider to be the most important market right now, which is at mentions. They dominate at mentions. That's a huge advantage.
They also dominate.
It harnesses, the power of social groups in a real-time, dynamic way.
They also dominate flow. Nothing else moves on my screen like Twitter does.
Right, but flow in and of itself, Robert, is only meaningful in competition with television and other broadcast mediums. But a narrowcast, targeted groups phenomenon. This is why Apple is able to get away with these kinds of pricing. They have figured out how to take, 16% of the market and 40 or 50% of the revenue.
Yep.
Okay. When Twitter gets where it's going, they're going to take a significant amount of revenue because they are real time and they have coverage, and if their signaling can improve, which is why we talk about and utilize at mentions as a stalking horse for that model, they're going to have these very tightly wound and bound microcells of business that are going on the network. It's a huge opportunity, and they're dominant in it.
Well,
Nobody comes close to it.
There's lots of stuff that's happening on Twitter. The problem is they don't get a slice of any of the transactions. Apple gets a slice of transactions because you do transactions. You want to install an app, that's a transaction. If it's got a value to it, they're going to get a slice. Now, if you want to have a subscription be associated to it, they get a slice of that as well. Twitter has nothing like that.
Well,
Twitter is purely ads. They are purely ads.
It wasn't ads that toppled the.
Well, they're not purely ads; they're also data.
It wasn't ads that toppled Egypt.
I guess what I'm saying is they're monetization-wise, they only have ads.
No, they have Flow, which they sell to Google and
okay,
Microsoft.
That's correct.
But that's
they do
a
have
small
Flow.
amount of their. It may be the most visible part of their revenue right now. But what they're doing is that they're locking up the viral, authoritative flow to roll up what Robert's saying with what I'm saying. They're locking that up. Facebook has different goals, and because they have opted out of, I've read a couple times. I'm not sure whether this has been reported on or whether it's just been noticed by people. Maybe one of you can comment on this. That Twitter into Facebook has stopped working, or it's been intermittent recently. Has anybody seen that?
I don't know. I turned mine off a long time ago.
Okay. Well, the point is that they don't flow Twitter in and out, and in not doing that, and they certainly don't allow their conversations to flow back out to Twitter.
Yeah.
So they become it's like Google is now trying to work their way into scraping that stuff, and it doesn't exist because Facebook has cut themselves off from that conversation. I don't see why people aren't alarmed at Twitter's control of the message bus because
I think Twitter has largely, and you'll push back against this, but I think Twitter has largely tried to play fair. That Twitter cut deals that cost money with both Bing and Google, and yet they still set up systems that allowed them to let small developers still have access to the flow. I know that.
From what I've heard from small developers, that's no longer true.
Okay. And that may change, and today's move may freak out even more, developers.
If there's any left, I mean, I think a lot of the developers realized what was up when Twitter bought.
John, don't you think there are even?
What was the app that Twitter bought that turned into the Twitter app for Apple?
You mean for
Tweety?
iPad?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, yeah. If your development
point.
plan was, I'm going to create a client, the writing's been on
Tweety.
the wall for some time.
Tweety, yeah. Thanks, Jerome.
Sorry, I lost you there, Danny.
I was going to say, if your development plan was, I'm going to create a consumer-based client, the writing's been on the wall for some time, Twitter was going to have their own. But Twitter still does not have things like co-tweet, for example, or the Hootsuite Enterprise version, or these solutions for people who need a more industrial strength way of lifting Twitter, if you will. So,
John,
if you look over at BetaWorks, my God, it's like a Twitter factory over there. The Social Flow and Bitly alone are like these incredible tools.
I agree with the last thing you said, but not the one just before it because they were contradictory.
What was that before?
They're not contradictory. The first point was that Twitter does not have industrial strength tools for a corporation or an enterprise, and they don't today. I mean, they do have the plumbing for it and the infrastructure for it,
right?
But,
which they didn't have until very, very recently.
Exactly.
And their clients actually support the only known model for actually triaging at mentions. So
they have that, but they don't have
incentivizing the flow of at mentions on the network, which creates the market, which is now going to be pushed. So
that's the infrastructure part. The other part is how you manage
the cloud,
flow.
baby.
But how you manage the flow of multiple accounts and how you roll all those up into a single view, that's where the Hootsuites and TweetDecks are really strong. Where you have, say you have a brand say it's Apple, but then they have many sub-brands, Macintosh and everything else, and iOS and all sorts of Twitter handles. How those flow up into a single view, that's where the strength of the other those other apps that Danny's talking about are.
I think you're seeing this exactly the opposite from what is actually going on, which is that Twitter has staunched the flow of blood of fail whales. It has built out an architecture which is largely the same across both iPad, iPhone, Android, and web. The web client, even though it currently contains, 60% of their traffic?
For an individual user, you're absolutely right. And they have the infrastructure.
For consumers, they now have stabilized on their web client. For the enterprise, they've now established a platform that can be used for the enterprise.
Exactly, and what people are afraid of is that they're going to go into that part, which is, I think, leads up into the the banning of Uber Media potentially because of the TweetDeck non-acquisition, but that they want to hold that off, and they also want to make sure they have that flow.
I think they've gotten much more sophisticated about dealing with partners than we are currently giving them credit for.
They do, but they haven't communicated that to the partners. Well, we don't know. There's always dealings behind the scenes.
But even the public messages that are being sent are fairly robust. They are saying, we have a platform. I mean, Costello has been quoted all over the planet in the last week and a half, saying that that they're a platform, that their goal is to get out of the conversation and just be perceived as being the platform on which these messages flow.
They've achieved that. They're achieving that.
Job. Well,
absolutely.
Yeah, that took 5 years, and they're lucky that they're still in business because their early messaging on this was horrendous. Their current messaging is very powerful, and he deserves a seat at the table.
Oh yeah, so literally, I agree. But still, they don't have the and this is going to scare the partners that are building these applications that have the the multiple brand identities and
they've been pre-scared for a long time. I mean, the only thing that
which is why Uber is acquiring them all. Bill Gross is very smart about this.
He sure is, and so is Bitly and John Borthwick.
And BetaWorks in general is making a lot of smart moves.
Right. So, are they our next for Danny and Kevin?
It's a capitalist society. If
what do you mean?
If Apple.
I'm tarring you with a single brush.
When Billy came out, I was worried about it breaking the web. Sure, I still am. That injecting a single point of failure is bad. Yeah.
Are they that deep in the plumbing to be a single point of failure on the web? I mean, they're not going to break the web. What's going to break the web?
That didn't break the web.
If they route all the links, I mean, Twitter doing is worse. Twitter doing TCO is worse. But if that piece breaks, suddenly all the links that were there are no longer resolved. That's a problem. We've seen it with a bunch of other.
We've had this discussion before. If somebody was really concerned about this, and it was going to be something that was going to threaten the lifeblood of the web, then there would be a consortium that copied every one of those Bitly messages and stored the URLs that they point at to make sure that this isn't a problem. I think that people aren't worried about that for various reasons, including the fact that Bitly has a much greater chance of surviving than some sort of ad hoc, masquerading as open strategy on the part of vendors, and I'm not going to say who, but you can read my lips.
Well, what Twitter is doing already is, when
is a spurious thing anyway that was just made up because of Twitter's arbitrariness. That's the.
Say again.
Euro shortening was a thing that was made up because of Twitter's arbitrary length limit in the first place. That's where it came.
Yeah, that horrible, arbitrary thing of creating a worldwide message bus in real time that has, completely obliterated, major businesses like Borders. What are you talking about?
What am I doing?
Having an application trigger embedded in a 140-character microbus, which is completely dominating every thing that anybody talks about these days, and you're saying that that's a problem?
I'm saying that the URL shortening thing is a problem. Yeah, it
140
adds,
characters.
It adds
is
fragility
a
to the web.
problem? It's like saying, let's stop all these impressionists from painting on that little square canvas because it's limiting.
It has been a
Go ahead.
It's a thing that was built. Sorry, go, Danny.
It's not that the 140 characters in and of itself was a problem, but Kevin's right in that it has caused some problems in association with it. Because you have so little space, people have to shorten URLs, so they start shortening URLs with third-party tools, which have actually gone down and disappeared, and when they go down, they take millions of URLs with them. Last year, I did a whole rundown on all the URL shortening services that were out there. It could be much easier for me to revisit that this year because there's like 3 left.
Yeah, Danny,
these other ones crashed, and when they went, they took the URLs with them.
Danny, say this is Google and they're searching it and they're searching through a Twitter feed, does it unpack the URL and cache that already?
Yeah.
What does
They
it do?
should do that, yeah.
Yeah, Google does that. Well, if the URL service is using it properly, right? If they're using 301s, not 302s, but
right.
yeah.
If they're smart, in other words.
Right, and when the Library of Congress takes all the Twitter feeds, are they unpacking those URLs also? Or are they all stored somewhere? It just seems like it's so real time that that if Bitly went down today, or changed it so that it's no longer functional, just right now, people would lose the historical links, but maybe they just keep moving on with it using a different service.
I've lost a lot of historical links because as far as I can tell, eWeek online is out of business. And
well, I had that same
several
experience.
years.
I lost all 8 years of everything I've ever written. Is no longer
I think my
available.
Links is Dead article is dead because there is no link to it.
Yeah.
I lost 2 years of my first 2 years of blogging is gone. So it's not a big deal. I'm going to be in a cardboard box someday, and I'll be gone. So
it's what you do now, not what you did before.
Massive Scoble sigh going around the network.
Yeah, exactly.
Scoble not immortal. Wait. Film at 11.
I think you just broke the internet, Robert.
They can't wait.
Well, they're trying to legislate for stuff to disappear in Europe, aren't they? They're trying to legislate for things to be forgettable.
Yeah. It's interesting we're still having this argument about 140 characters, by the way, because when I was over in Europe, I really appreciated the lightweightness of Twitter. I could get tweets where I couldn't get blog pages sometimes because the bandwidth sucks so much in certain places.
I don't know. It's an argument. I mean,
you could get tweets over SMS.
It's good in lots of ways. It's also bad in some ways. Lots of things have good things and bad things.
When I was on the ski slope, I had barely enough Wi-Fi to get Twitter, and Twitter would come in a few tweets at a time, and I couldn't pull up a web page. And so it was nice to at least be able to tweet out and see tweets from people while I was drinking beer.
No, Robert, it would be much better for you just to go skiing.
Actually, it wasn't.
If I was a publisher, I would be a lot happier with knowing that Apple's getting 30% and is going to exist in 5 years, as opposed to a lot of these other freeware, subsidization models, which may
I don't think
disappear.
publishers look at it like a retail store does. Is the retail mall healthy, and is there traffic walking by?
I just said that.
And yeah, exactly. So we're just saying it a different way, and they're going to pay the price if the mall's healthy.
Clearly, some publishers do not just view it in that way, because you've had some publishers speaking out and thinking, I don't know, I got to reevaluate that.
At the bottom of those
publishers
stories,
may feel like,
believe me, every time somebody when I ran a retail store, whenever my rent went up, I bitched about it too. Because nobody likes to get their rent raised, but then you look at it and go, well, is it still worth it to be here, or should I move across town into another mall, or should I open my own
with that,
store?
I'm just because some publishers feel like maybe Apple could be a perfectly healthy ecosystem at a lower rate.
That's absolutely, but
and thank God for that, or else there would only be 0 apples.
It could be worse. I mean, Google takes how much of every Google AdWord dollar does Google keep?
30%.
Nobody knows.
And
They don't-
exactly.
Nobody knows, but it's
Exactly.
They do know.
but
From
it's
the
around
mouths of the
70%.
Google advocate. of
They
the
do
few.
know.
Nobody knows, but
because-
it's around 70%, isn't it?
No, they do know, and you can know exactly how much it is because
they
after
know.
years and years poking at Google
So
about
how
it,
much is it?
If you pay them
it
for
depends
it.
on the publisher. You're probably around getting 32% of their money that they're keeping from your AdSense. If you log into AdSense, it'll tell you.
Okay.
Well, how about that social search thing, Danny?
Yeah.
Oh.
Let's switch the channel.
I think it's cool.
Yeah, Google rolled it out even broader. They've had social search since 2009, and now it's all being mixed in even more with your search results. So they really aren't these separate entities anymore.
Yeah, but we were talking about this a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about the fact that it was, in this little chunk at the bottom of the screen. Did they pre-brief you on this?
Yeah, I talked with them.
So you were aware that they were going to go change what we were talking about on the show the last time you were here?
No.
Oh, I didn't think so.
No, I hadn't known that it was going to come out this way. That pre-briefing was much sooner than that.
So in other words, they're moving faster than even you thought.
No, I think I thought that they were going to probably do something more with it, but I didn't know the exact implementation.
So what do you think about it? Do you think it's
Oh, I
going to
think
be
it's good.
successful?
Yeah. I think it makes sense. I don't think it's useful for it to be stuck down there at the bottom and you never knew if it was going to trigger or not. I think that when you're doing a search, if you see a result and you can tell that your friends have shared it, that's important and useful information, and was something that Yahoo was testing in 2005.
Kevin? Were you trying to say something, Kevin?
I was just saying I think it's a good idea. I thought it was a good idea when I was there, and I'm glad they've kept working on it. Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, there's a challenge that only some fraction of the people will be sharing links. But if they're people like us, then they'll probably be sharing a lot of links, so that will still be useful. It certainly makes more sense for a follower pattern than for a friend pattern. Which is interesting, but I'm slightly surprised that they're not crawling the public bits of Facebook as part of this.
That's a big mystery about what the hell is going on there.
Danny,
Yeah,
I've heard from several Google employees that there's rules against integrating with any Google or any Facebook service inside Google.
That could be
true?
part of it. I mean,
YouTube's
they have
integrated.
a deal with Facebook.
You can what,
And
Kevin?
they have a deal with Facebook to take Facebook's information from Facebook fan pages and integrate that within Google real-time search, which is separate from social search.
But fan
they do
pages
not
are
get
what?
public information that happens on Facebook outside of fan pages. So if you like something and you've chosen to share those likes with the world, they can't get that. And it seems to be that if they want to do that kind of integration, they have to agree to Facebook's terms, and they don't seem to like those terms because it seems like those terms either mean that they've got to give Facebook some money off their ads, or they've got to let Facebook see what's going on with Google, or other mystery reasons that Eric Schmidt, on the 2 occasions that I've asked him about it, can only smirk and go, look at the terms. So it's a mystery, and it's a mystery from the very top of Google that Google still refuses to actually answer about what the hell is their problem with Facebook.
Yeah.
And vice versa. I mean, Facebook refuses to answer what their problem is with Google.
Facebook, actually, Zuckerberg was pretty clear on that when he was asked about it in at Web 2.0 Summit. His response was, well, we think we ought to be able to get some information back from the people who use our data, and we think that's pretty fair. So clearly, Facebook thinks they should be getting something from Google. What it is that Google objects that Facebook wants is the crux to this.
That's why Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs sat next to the president.
Could be.
Because they're being transparent, and he isn't.
I don't know. There's a lot of tea reading going on about that picture.
That was my segue, was to let's talk about the black box inside of Google and how we don't know anything about it.
Which one?
There are several.
I know.
They're nested, yeah.
The articles about social search suggested that they were willing to talk about this just up to the point where we asked the question about, what extent are you including social as part of your overall search algorithm, at which point they shut up.
No, I did a whole article on that back in December.
Okay,
And-
I'm talking about with the incorporation of the new signal.
Well, the article in December was more important because it talked about the incorporation of social signals into regular Google search results.
Uh-huh.
And their answer was, yeah, we're taking in things like how often something's tweeted, who tweets it, the authority of the person who's tweeting that, and all that can have an impact on whether or not, what they're talking about ranks better. Now, social search actually just added to that. All the social search did was say, hey, if your friends are actually tweeting something and you're logged in, we might boost that stuff even more beyond what we're already doing on social signals that we use in general.
All right. Well, I'm going on by an MG article where he asked some questions of a guy. I'll see if I can find it. If somebody can put the link in chat or something. The basic implication was that they were reluctant to talk about how this was weighted, how these new signals were weighted inside the overall search.
Well, I mean, they're reluctant to talk about how any signal is weighted within overall search. So that's just being
that's
just
what
being
I just
Just be
said.
vague about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's called black
But the other thing is that
Yeah.
the personalized search is already there, and this makes the personalized search more personalized.
Right.
So who they weight for whom is going to be different
But
for each person.
the degree, I mean, I think that signals that the user can understand in terms of weighting are much more valuable than some sort of secret sauce where the user doesn't understand how his or her actions is going to impact on the overall.
The user generally does
value.
not. The user generally doesn't care. The user just wants to have regular good results.
Yeah.
Right. But what we're talking about, at least what I would find interesting about this particular move is that it's along the road toward competing directly with Facebook and their, so-called authority. I mean, there was an interesting URL in the last day or so that said that somebody was tracking the actionable value of Facebook versus Twitter. John, did you see that? Is that something you pointed me at?
Yeah, I did. It basically showed that an ad spent was about 5x on Facebook was about 5x that of Twitter. So if you placed an ad on Facebook, your ROI basically would be about $10 per Twitter's $2. Because the brand is worth so much more on Facebook than it is on Twitter. That's not a. I don't think that's a real.
I think that what it's measuring, whether it is overtly or not, it's measuring that if you listen to what your friends say or the people that you think are important, that you are in communication with about something, that you value that more highly than random signals from the web.
Exactly, and I think that the brand ads that are targeted at your conversations and things like that are very are worth a lot. And just what you said, it's based by friends reference. Whereas Twitter, it's more promiscuous, right? So even though you might get more flow, the ROI per ad might be lower.
Okay, so looping back, the degree of promiscuity that has been introduced. Or lack of promiscuity that's been introduced into Google search results would be of interest to users, whether they are aware of it now or not.
You mean to how heavily do they weigh your friends in terms of whether or not they're going to rank something?
Since they don't want to talk about that, my thesis is that
it's
on
like
some
saying they
level,
don't want to talk about how much they weigh the stuff you click on in Google search results, and they don't want to talk about how much they weigh whether or not links carry more weight than something else. I mean. I see where you're coming from, but I don't know that most users still would care.
Right, and my point would be that startups will appear, or leading startups that are maturing into revenue models are going to start to focus on this with some speed, it would seem to me. So the users may not care about the infrastructure or the underlying geekery of what we're talking about, but they will care when they start to be targeted, or when they start to target information sources that provide more, socially aware results.
I think it's, and this is maybe a question and a comment for Danny and everybody, is that Google had PageRank and AdSense, and it did an algorithm to figure out where the links were coming from. Plus, it had a lot more secret sauce there. Facebook, it has the identities matched up. I mean, it has your friends matched up to theoretically your other friends or your brand, so that you have a follower. It's a more closed system. The Twitter open system, the promiscuous system, so to speak, would lead Twitter should be developing some analytics so that it figures out who your followers are and who you're interacting with, and then it could set a price based on the ads according to the followers that you have in a friend-style manner. And I think that would be very successful if they're in fact going down that path. That was my...
Yeah. I mean, I could see Twitter doing that. I think Twitter's bigger challenge right now is simply getting an ad platform out there that many people can actually use. It's still this private beta type of thing. So that may come. Twitter's other challenge over Facebook is that Twitter doesn't really have, they have their website, they have people doing stuff on the website, but they have a lot of activity happening outside that website. To whereas Facebook, I think, is much more about driving people back into Facebook and keeping track of you with what you're doing there. I think it's also easier for Facebook to see the interactions you would have and get those stronger ties. So,
yeah, it was interesting that somebody asked me, they were bringing up a study that showed that that people click on Facebook ads, and I'm like, I have never clicked on a Facebook ad. I don't think I ever will.
You've never clicked on a Google ad either.
I click on the button to turn the Facebook ads off. Until I realized that they stopped and it just produced another one to appear.
Exactly.
But like Kevin says, it only takes a small number of people. Most people don't click on Google's ads, but the 2 to 4% that do produce plenty of revenue.
Exactly, but there must be some people out there, a larger number of people who are clicking on ads, because that's what the conversation turned into. Like, they're clicking on ads all the time, shoe ads, fashion ads, whatever it was. It's like things are just not out of my realm. And I just basically admitted, I guess I'm not a web shopper, or something. And I don't understand this at all. Why would people click on the ad? It has to be very appealing to them.
Sometimes the ad, one time I was looking to buy a new snowboarding jacket, and the ads were much more relevant. Because I knew what jacket I wanted, I just needed to find retailers that actually.
Yeah, so I've done that. Yeah, that's a targeted search, and I would click on.
Yeah. So apparently, John, you just explained this to yourself.
Yeah.
But
it makes sense. It makes sense for Google. I mean, that this was, Google's pitch was always that they're measuring intent because they're saying exactly what people are searching for, and that's better than demographics, which is what you're trying to do before. Say, people of this age and zip code are more likely to buy ski jackets or whatever. And Facebook is gone back to the people who like the demographics idea and said, we'll give you really fine control over demographics, so you can just target 30-year-olds who live in the Bay Area or whatever
And they succeed for different reasons. And if Facebook actually starts pulling in more ad revenue than Google, it will be because it benefits from all the reasons that ads have typically benefited, which are the wrong reasons. Google benefits because someone at that point has decided they need a solution and they are ready to go, rock and roll. So Google is effectively the Yellow Pages. I need my answer right now. And you do not find a better kind of medium for consumers than that. They just, who can help me because I'm ready to buy, right?
Right.
Facebook.
Right. Well, then the challenge is from Amazon, but yeah.
Right. But exactly, Amazon too. But then Facebook is much more your broadcast television, which is, I need to build up some awareness of myself. I need to build up the idea that you might be interested in my particular product because it hasn't occurred to you that it's something that you want. So I'm going to still do this sort of scattershot. I'll put my message out there. Well, that's how television works, right? Television is this, I'm going to throw my message out to 1 billion people, and practically none of them care about them, and I'm making the best guess as possible to maybe get it in front of some people who care a little bit more.
But when we
Facebook lets you be much more precise about that and do all the demographic targeting, but it still lacks that thing that Google has, which is the people who are ready to buy. So Facebook is hitting them higher up in the sales cycle, but where Facebook may benefit is all those brand people who still don't get Google, who still don't want to play on search, who still kind of feel like I can't be creative or whatever. they're going to see Facebook as much more of a brand building medium, and they'll just move the brand dollars over there, which are much more than the transaction dollars.
Right. So that what.
Right, and that takes us back to Apple again, because that Apple is getting in at a different point in the process.
They're getting into the impulse buy.
With money as well. Yeah,
it's the impulse buy. The thing that search doesn't give you is the product that you didn't know you were interested in.
Sure.
All right, Facebook and
yeah.
Twitter to some extent deliver the information. And as the reason that we started this show talking about the impact, well, I tried to start the show on the Twitter thing, but we were hijacked by Scoble into the Apple thing. The extent to which Twitter owns the ability to control the conversation and the serendipity that results from information streams is going to become the primary focus of where the money is. And what's going to happen is that what Apple's doing with the iPad is providing a tool that allows us to be able to be informed about information that we weren't necessarily aware that we were going to be interested in. And the publishing model that results from that is something that has a much higher yield, as to John's point about Facebook versus Twitter. There's a lot more revenue and velocity in this new model of, what's a magazine? It's an information source. What's a real-time magazine? It's a real-time information source. And it's when it's modified by social signals, it becomes the most efficient mechanism for spreading that information around. And the people that align with that most efficient source of information are going to make the most money.
Yeah, this is why Facebook's messages are worth more, by the way, because somebody just posted a Facebook message saying, here's a picture of me skiing, and somebody else then asked what ski resort is, and they got an answer. That's a lot more information in one little nugget than Twitter usually has. And also people can like it and send signals that this is something that they themselves associate with or want to associate with. And so ski resorts now have a lot more information about both the person who wrote it and everybody who participated in that little info nugget, where Twitter it's a harder study for advertisers. I think the data is still there, but it's not as clear and it's not as packaged.
Okay, let's go around the table and wrap this one up, starting with Kevin.
Sorry, I missed that last piece there.
If you have a thought in your head, please say it.
Well, the thought in my head that struck me is that goes back to the demand media side of things and the conversation about who clicks on ads, is that they're basically, Apple is arbitraging off the good users at the top who are willing to pay, and that are arbitraging off the people who click on all the ads, who are effectively the good users for Google in revenue terms, even though they're effectively damaging search by doing it. And that's there's a problem there, a bundling problem again that's hitting at Google, because their results are being corrupted by people who are trying to target the people who will click on anything.
Danny, do you agree with that?
I'm sorry, I lost you, Kevin. I really apologize.
Yeah, I do too. That's why I'm trying
Sorry.
to.
Let me try it again. The content farms are basically targeting the people who aren't like John Taschek, who do click on all the ads on Google when they see them down the side of things, and they haven't developed ad blindness to them. And that's so they're saying, okay, these are the people who write bad searches, who then go to bad pages, then click on the ads and make money. And this is probably a bigger chunk of Google's money comes from the less savvy users because of this. And that's a potential problem for Google in the future.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say how much of their money might be coming off of the content. I mean, the idea behind the content farm is someone's done one of these how do I whatever searches, and they go through Google and they end up on the site, and then there's some ads there. beyond that, they're just Google ads on all sorts of crappy sites. I mean, really crappy sites all over the place, right? And it's really hard to know to what degree Google's income comes from some of that. I'm just stupid. I'll click on anything. Do you know that in AdSense, if you carry AdSense, you can decide not to carry certain classes of ads, and one of those classes of ads is called Get Rich Quick? That Google's actually gone through and understood that it's carrying ads from people who are just trying to get you to get rich quick, who, let's face it, typically you're not going to get rich quick, right? And now and rather than say, we don't want that money, we're going to take that money, we'll just leave it down to the advertisers to make the decision. So I don't know. I just don't know to the degree that it could hurt them down the line, if they were to cut all that sort of stuff out. Google's also in this other position where they have been very careful to keep their ads and their editorial listings segregated and off to the sides or whatever. They could mix them up a lot more if they wanted to. They'd have to be careful of some FTC guidelines that were established over 10 years ago. But, potentially they could mix things up a lot more and boost up their revenues in other ways.
Robert.
Where do I want to go with this? Shopping malls should get to charge whatever they want.
And they're going to.
Yeah.
And then we get to decide whether to go in the mall or not.
A lot of bankrupt malls around here.
Not in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, there's one across the street from me.
Sure.
Where?
No, there are less bankrupt malls than there used to be, actually.
There's less malls.
Yeah.
There are fewer malls now.
Well,
Right.
there's
People are
not
buying
many
on
more
Amazon.
malls for a lot more people. Yeah.
Well,
the Sony Metreon was a gigantic mall that just shut down and will become a gigantic Target.
Wow.
Metreon shut down?
Wow.
The Metron's shutting down and it's going to become a Target. The biggest Target in the West Coast.
Awesome. I like Target.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to sell iPads.
Everybody's going to sell iPads. Once we get
For
through
30% off.
the blizzard of weak players, then we will get iPad 2, and we'll all buy it. Even Danny.
Oh, I'll definitely buy one.
Exactly.
I'll probably buy the Zoom when it finally comes out too, because
The
it
Zoom?
looks like the Motorola one.
Oh.
But it looks like the first decent Android tablet that I've seen.
I'm going to have one on Monday, I think.
What?
But if I had to get one, it would be an iPad. It's it's a great
The
thing.
Zoom. The Zoom.
Zoom, are you going to get one? It's going to be out on Monday?
Nah, I'm not supposed to talk about it, actually.
Tell them to send me one.
Is anybody
right.
still listening to the show?
Robert.
Hopefully not anybody from Motorola.
Yeah, nobody's watching. Don't worry. All right.
Robert. I'll link to you.
I'll see you on Monday, Danny. I'm sure you got the invite too.
No!
No.
Stuff.
Really pathetic.
Bastards.
I'm not saying who, though. All right, John, you have anything to wrap
I'm
up
not
with?
buying one now.
I'll bring mine over. How about that?
I'm going to have a meltdown.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
referring to
That worked
it
once.
wasn't about the Zoom. It was about the pre, I think.
Yeah.
But, go ahead, John.
Oh, I enjoyed watching the show today. It was excellent. Thanks, Steve. I guess my last my comments would be I agree with Robert. I more agree in it's in a capitalist system that Apple should be able to set the prices. They're not locking anybody into anything, and the publishers can decide whether to participate in this in a platform that they know is going to have a high monetization rate or not. I mean, that's fine. It was a great argument, but I think that's just clear what Apple can do. If it doesn't work, they can lower the price. I think publishers are very skittish because they don't have a huge bankroll for publishing, especially books, but also subscriptions and things like that. And they're afraid that if they did commit, all their development into iPad, that there would be maybe it'd go to 40% or 50%. That's what they're afraid of. That's why there was almost zero answer from any publisher on the whole, the whole thing. I mean, I think the San Francisco Chronicle had a story on it, and maybe a couple others said a few things, but they're basically scared, and they should be, But they're also probably going to play in that mall
And
too.
Apple does. They reach, and then they retract just a little bit, like they did with the what was the thing where they backed off? Oh yeah, the thing about not allowing Adobe developers to use Adobe tools to write to in other words, that you had to use Objective C or nothing else. They rolled that back, and they won't roll back. They won't roll back the 30% because their model's based on making money and a lot of it, but they may roll back some of the details.
Now, what they did with the developers last year was they charged 30% initially, and then it went up to 40%, I believe, right, for developing applications. And that did not stop the flow of developers writing applications.
No,
on
it
the
accelerated it, as a matter of fact.
And then also the applications got better. So it's a parallel. It's a little weak in some areas, but it's a parallel of what the publishing industry will have if you equate a publisher with a developer. As far as Twitter and ads, I think, if I were looking long out at what Google could do, is take goggles, and you think of a person as a brand, and the person's brand is now extended on Facebook and Twitter, and you take something like the technology in goggles, and you could identify what a person is wearing. Say they went to that ski resort, or the place, and you could map it into with permissions, of course, into a brand ad, a product placement. And that would be a pretty interesting use case that somebody should be working on. Whether it's practical or not remains to be seen. But I always like to look, ahead at those things, and maybe it's something interesting to play out.
Was anybody listening to him? I thought it was interesting. Yeah.
Well, I liked especially the thing where he was saying it. Developers like publishers, because I don't know that developers are like publishers. The developers might say, "Well, I don't like you taking 40% over the 30%, but I'm developing for your platform. I'm not developing for anything else, right? If I'm literally only developing something for your platform, it's not like I'm going to go, oh well, I'm going to go take it somewhere else. I suppose I could go off and do for Android." A publisher, if you're talking some of these magazines and stuff like that, not really developing for they're producing content. They've been producing content for years, for decades. So I don't know that they necessarily would view it in the same sort of way, but I think they'll still suck it up and take it.
Well, the only thing that I want to just push back a little bit with you, Danny, on is regarding publishers. I think that what we're about to see is a series of publishers who say, okay, not only am I going to take the 30%, but I'm going to push the envelope since I don't see, other than supporting your platform, why you're getting 30%. So I'm going to push the envelope in terms of what I request in terms of an application, so that it becomes like a superset of what can be done on any other platform, particularly in the push notification space. I think as we start to see people build out @mentions and push notification, and I've written about this as well, so you can see what I'm talking about here, that we're going to get a sort of a super class of applications that actually deal with the time efficiency of working with a number of apps. And once we get to that, we're going to see that there is a shelf space that's in play in this environment, and that shelf space is going to be increasingly valuable when companies like Twitter actually start monetizing the tremendous lead that they have.
By the way, Nokia just announced that they expect a price war to come when smartphones and Windows Phone 7s to come out very cheaply, which totally shows why Apple is moving to firm up its revenue sources so they can play this big war against Microsoft.
All right.
No, I'm not completely convinced that adds up. I think Tech Republic wrote a good article on why the Android people can't undercut Apple, because Apple controls more of the supply chain. Apple is selling most of their stuff directly, either through the stores or online, and therefore they're taking more of the margin in that piece as well.
Yeah.
Well, there was an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal about what what Stephen Elop finally decided he had to do. It wasn't so much that they couldn't afford to go with Android. Basically Microsoft realized that they had to close this deal, or they were going to be forever shut out of the mobile market, and all of the reasons why that we've been talking about, why that's the only valuable market.
Well, we don't know if they couldn't afford to go with the deal. We know that Microsoft gave them apparently a huge amount of money. We don't know if Google was offering them any money or not. And what we don't know is in the long term if the bet that they're making on Windows 7 is going to pay off versus if they had bet on trying to do both Windows 7 and Android or just doing Android. So
I mean, they're a farm club, and as a farm club, they have to depend on somebody. And I don't think that they felt that going into a pool with HTC, Motorola, and various other Android players that they were going to come out with any differentiation whatsoever. So they had a choice between going out of business now or later.
Right.
And,
or getting bought by Apple, by Microsoft down the line.
I think they were bought by Microsoft.
Well, yeah.
Just like Yahoo was bought by Microsoft on the first offer.
Yeah, it's true.
It just took them a while it's like you cut the head off and the chicken still runs around for a while.
Yeah.
Okay, this is Steve Gillmor. This has been the Gillmor Gang. I want to thank Rackspace, and particularly Rob Legess, without which this show would not be on the air. Whatever the air is, and however much 30% is going to be taken out of that air. And I want to thank NewTek and their incredible TriCaster for turning this into video. I want to have a pause with an expression for those who are insisting on listening on RSS. I can't help you there more than I have been able to. So good luck. And I want to thank John Taschek, Danny Sullivan, Robert Scoble, Kevin Morris. And I want to thank everybody who showed up, and especially those who didn't. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.